أولا شكرا جزيلا على الاستضافة وعلى الفرصة السعيدة. I'll introduce myself شوي قبل ما أفوت بالتوبيك. علي القنطار، CEO founder ل Zero and One. Zero and One is an AWS Premier Consulting Partner. We are operating in Egypt وبيروت والإمارات والسعودية. أم، حنبلش التوبيك بحدوتة زي ما بتقولوا بمصر حدوتة. So let me start with this story. تمام. ب 14 جانيوري 14 واحد من كذا سنة لورا، 14 واحد الساعة 5 بعد الظهر، كنت مشغول قاعد بالمكتب بشتغل، وفجأة مشغول وأنا تليفوني على طول سايلنت. بتطلع بالتليفون. I I found 9 missed calls. انقذت. لما فتحت لقيتها 9 missed calls من 2 different numbers. So واحد كان أمي والتاني كان أختي. فطبعا أنا 9 missed call من أمي ومن أختي، في شيء مش صح. فعمليا أنا دقيت لأختي أخف لأنه خفت. So ردت علي أختي وقالت لي: وينك؟ عيد ميلاد أمك ال65 أنت ناسي؟ قالت لي: معك 35 دقيقة لتكون هون. طيب، الحمد لله انقضت على خير. فلت مي ريبيت. ذاكرين القصة أول ما بلشت أنا حصلت بأمتين؟ إذا في حدا مركز معي كان بالقصة. أمتين كان الديت كان 14 واحد الساعة 5. كم مست كول كان عندي على التليفون؟ ممكن تشاركوني بالشات. 9. من كم رقم؟ 2. علشان كان عيد ميلاد أم الكام؟ 65. قد إيه كان معي مهلي لأوصل؟ عشان بدهم يبلشوا 35 دقيقة. شكرا يا ريهام. So 1415926535. Congratulations, you just memorized the first 10 digits of pi اللي كانوا يدرسونا إياها 3.1415926535. هيدا منه سحر. This is very true about how our brain functions when we are faced with stories. يعني it turns out that stories play a very important role in our brains. Stories that are personal, emotional, and they are compelling, engaging, they engage our brain way more than just إنه لما نكون نحن بس faced with some facts. And we can remember things better. لأنه when we hear facts هما بس two areas ب our brain will light up، اللي هما language processing والlanguage comprehension. بينما لما نسمع stories the neural activities in our brains increase 5 folds و they release chemicals اللي هم بنسميهم نحن دوبامين وكورتيزول، وهيدول they increase our empathy level، التعاطف والفوكس والتركيز والميموري ريتنشن كابابيلتي والقدرة على الحفظ. So the story telling is attached by the amount you can memorize and focus. Now بالعالم اللي احنا عايشين فيه حاليا بالديجيتال وورلد data has become a crucial element for a wide range of industries organizations governments, and they rely on data to make important decisions. So do you know who is telling us better stories? Of course, data. Are you listening? We record, we compile, we count, we clean, we analyze. حتى نحن اليوم we buy and sell all types of data, and we rely on all our personal lives to answer any question based on data. We calculate CO2 emissions. اليوم عم نحكي بالsustainability وبال ESG وعم نحكي بالglobal warming. عم نربطها كلها بالCO2 emissions. We log them. Our moods. الفت بت اللي بنلبسها، الابل واتش، التليفون، الميوزك on our app. Everything is collecting data about our lives. And we are analyzing data day after day, way much before. So it's clear that numbers and data has become crucial part of our lives. But numbers alone cannot speak for themselves. الأرقام مش هتتكلم من حد من نفسها. They need someone to encapsulate this data, to encapsulate this value, and give it a voice. It's becoming very clear that we need more people who can understand this big data and can explain it to humans through stories. There are always stories behind the numbers. Someone who can create data stories by leaning on creativity, empathy, and contextual understanding. So 3 things. We need to tell the stories behind the numbers, but we need to rely on our creative mind as a human. We need to have the empathy, والتعاطف بالstory, and the contextual understanding. Please focus معي على contextual. It's very important. The pyramid I'm showing here shows the data at the bottom. واللي هي unprocessed data. I have data, but I didn't process it, and this is the bottom layer. The next layer becomes the information, and this is when we process the data and make it meaningful. But by giving it purpose or context. Again, يعني الcontext كتير مهم. The third layer is knowledge. When I produce information and I combine the information I have with the understanding and expertise تبعنا نحن as humans, this become knowledge. But only when I put this knowledge into a good use, this becomes wisdom. So bottom up, we collect data, we process it to get information, we add our expertise to convert it to knowledge, and only when you put this knowledge into action in a good use, it becomes wisdom. Now, you can think of data like the pixels in a photograph. So each pixel is a packet of information. Now, the more we zoom in on the data point, the more we see its complexity. So while the more we zoom out, the more we see its context. صح؟ Imagine a photographer. Photographer is not يعني photograph that you see is an object representation of reality. It's not the reality itself. It's an object that represents how the photographer has seen it in his eyes, and so is data. So make sure, like, to avoid the wrong context, else we will be creating a lot of conspiracy theories. So this is just an advice how to treat data, information, and knowledge without diversifying, without diverging from the real story, which is always relevant to the context. Now, while our data sets and digital archives are growing bigger, and information remains really difficult to collect and complex to analyze and very challenging to communicate, More data does not mean more wisdom. Someone has to find the stories behind these numbers and tell them in a very compelling narrative. You don't necessarily need to be a super genius mathematician or statistician or even a tech expert to do this. All you need is the ability to understand the numbers, spot the story, translate those statistics in a very accessible format without stretching into conspiracy theories. So more data does not necessarily means more wisdom. It just needs the empathy. It needs our human touch to put the story behind the numbers. Of course, numbers alone are boring. The best stories that we can tell is when it's related to humans, when it's related to our day-to-day lives. All the factors, our real lives, the impact that these insights we're getting from this data that will have on our lives. Because behind every number lies a human story. And it's our responsibility as people to keep in mind while we are crunching our numbers beside business goals that there are human stories and we are looking to make an impact. Here's a summary about an 8 commandments to tell good stories from data. 1, always begin with a question. 2, end with an insight. If I'm asking a question at the beginning, I need to end with an insight. 3, always know and cater to your audience. You cannot tell the same story to C-level people the same way you can tell it to students. Or you cannot address your employees the same way you address your upper management. Tell a compelling story. Put the emotional part. Hook your people in your story. Don't make your story boring. And then when you are explaining, always use visuals, but narrate with words. So do not use text, use visuals, but use wording with the empathy, with the tone, with the compelling way when you are telling your story. And then always, that's very critical, provide context. Context is key, you know? So a small example, I was talking to my son about, I'm not sure if you can see me. Yes, you can see me on the camera. So I asked him, is this big or small? Yes. And he was like, this is too small. And I said, you didn't ask relative to what? Because this is like 33% of your finger, and this becomes way big. So the context is always relevant to your story. Now, be clear, be concise. Deliver your message simple, easy, end to end. Do not confuse the audience with multiple messages when you are telling a story. And be honest and credible. That's the most important. We don't want to spread stories that are not relevant, that are not within the context, even if we have the data, because we can always manipulate data. We want to be honest and we want to be credible. Now, how do we really collect our data to make our stories? So how do we execute when it comes to technology perspective? So the pipeline towards your story. It usually starts by identifying where are my data sources. In every organization, we have multiple sources of data, whether our databases, whether our files, structured, unstructured, we have sensors, we have IoT data, we have our clickstream data coming from our mobile apps. So we need to identify all the data sources. Once you identified them, you need to ingest them. So ingestion is key. Am I ingesting in batches or in live? So is it stream? Is it I'm collecting every click users are doing on my website and that's streaming? Or am I taking backup or bulk databases every 24 hours? Am I getting my files every 10 minutes? So that becomes like batching. So ingestion, another layer. After I ingest, I need to store. Am I storing them in a structured way in a data warehouse, or am I storing them on a hot storage or cold storage? And then once I store them, I need to have a catalog. I need to process to create my metadata. I need to normalize. I need maybe to enrich. And then I have a catalog of all this data. Is this data a marketing data set or a sales data set? Is this like students data set? I don't know. I need to collect them. I need to create metadata, which is data on data that makes it searchable, and I can analyze it through queries. And at the end, I need to visualize. I can visualize using any tool that can give me dashboards, widgets, and I can draw visuals, graphs, and I can really do more analytics, and I can even go towards insights where I can do actions so I can improve outcomes. Now, that's called the data pipeline end to end. Now, of course, I cannot build a data pipeline without making sure that my data is governed, is secured, and I can monitor. I can log access, I can monitor usage, I can even have specific governance, whether on the and other stuff, which are the quality also management. I'll come to the quality, which takes us to the next slide. Now, we're all in an era where everyone is talking about AI, Gen AI, and this boom, right? So here is the thing. You cannot do AI without data. So one of the top CIO challenges, this was a recent study where data quality was on the top of the list of what is hindering or what's blocking the progress of adopting AI and ML in organizations. So among a lot of others, skills required, the security, privacy, but data quality remained at the top. So data is very important in adopting any AI or ML journey, which every organization now is talking about across the globe because of the big boom that ChatGPT did to us. Everyone wants to explore, everyone wants to adopt, but the ugly truth, if you don't have data, this iceberg shows you like Gen AI applications or any AI application is just tip of the iceberg. What lies beneath is all about data. It's your data governance, it's your data integrations. Do you have data lakes, analytics in place? Your databases, these sources, are they ingested? Are they normalized? Where are you storing? Do you have structured, unstructured data? All of these are like prerequisites before you can really get good quality outcome of any AI powered application. Now, the journey of adopting AI ML is three phases: what to build, how to build, and then how to scale. Of course, what to build needs relevance to the organization. From is it something that can improve efficiency? Is it something that can generate revenue? Is it aligned with the organization objectives? So technically, we need to identify the use cases where we are investing in AI. It should make sense and aligned with the organization strategy vision. You should add AI to the company mission and see how this mission can be achieved. And then how to build it. You need data. Data is still key. So beside data, you need to have your security governance in place. You need to identify processes until you can later scale it, and which becomes like day two operation. Now that's in a nutshell. about the full journey of how you can adopt, but I just wanted again for the relevance of this topic to highlight, because we are in an AI era, that data is always a key differentiator. Now, just a flavor about how the first phase was what to build, right? So how can I think of what I can build? There are two axes that can help you shape your mindset. Think of, am I building an AI for every day, or am I building a game-changing AI? And this is one axis, left and right. And then, am I gonna use AI as a customer facing in the front office, or am I going to use it for internal operation as in back office? So once you think of the use cases and align them with the business goals, this will give you what we call an AI radar of opportunities. And then you can focus on energy on how to build. But once you are in the how, you need to make sure that there are three pillars to consider. Are you AI ready from a security perspective? And this is a new type of security. Imagine that you have an AI driven, for example, chatbot or support in a bank, and someone have bugged that chatbot and can hide or can do transactions without you knowing. So that's a new type of security that we need to make sure we are ready for. And are you AI ready from a data perspective, which we were covering during this talk? And at the end, are you AI ready from a principles? This is something that gonna affect our human behavior, that affects our students, that affects the way we interact and deal with the data. So those are just a high level about the three things that we need to consider in the how to build. At the end, I just have a slide, since from an AWS context perspective, AWS have released a full GenAI stack from the infrastructure level, where you have the GPUs needed, the compute power needed that are specialized for GenAI, and then the second layer that is the bedrock, that has the console for a lot of large language models and foundation models, where there is the guardrails, the tuning, the optimization, and the scale ready is there, and the price performance is the best in the market. And then there are the applications on top, which are expanding day after day, whether it's a support in writing the code or in building smart chatbots or even agents powered by GenAI. Before I close, I just wanted to mention, since we are talking about stories, my son, Sari, is almost 12, came to me recently and said, Daddy, what is life? And I was like, you're too young for this question. I said, I don't know. He said, Daddy, life is a very long story about how you died. So let's make sure we leave stories that are impactful and memorable. Thank you so much.